Um, Basically, we're going over
Okay.
the very basics of um, Sandler, the Sandler sales process. And I shared a document with
Okay.
you not too long ago. I want to say maybe yesterday. Um, and it says like the basic Sandler selling process. And we just want to go over the beginning part of that today because it would take,
Okay.
I don't want to keep you for longer than probably 30 minutes at the most, and this will take a little bit longer than that. So I'll
Now, just wondering. I'm sorry. Just wondering. Sandler, is that like the guy who started it or something, or is there a reason why they call it Sandler? Just out of curiosity. Not that it matters,
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's some guy named Bob Sandler or something like came up with this
I guess.
this like sales
Method
approach.
self.
Yes, at some point, I don't know
Okay.
when, but it's the approach that we've adopted at Homevestors, and we've had a lot of success with it. So we live and die by it,
Do you
really.
know, has he got like any books out or on it, or is that just specifically for your company?
It's not
Do
specifically
you know
for
if that
our.
Bob Sandler has like any books out, or is it just
Yeah, they
okay?
do all kinds of like corporate training and like consulting, and I know they do have some literature that they put out. I would look if you want to read something that is goes right along with this training or this sales approach. I would check into two books. One is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, Voss.
Okay.
The other one is You Can't Learn to Ride a Bike at a Conference or something like that. That's another one that is a
Okay. Gotcha.
so can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so at a really high level, this is what Sandler is. Sandler is all about, whereas traditional selling is trying to get your prospect to say yes, we are we are doing the opposite and working hard to get to the no. And you'll hear this over and over and over again, that we stay behind the pendulum. And what that means is that if you can imagine a pendulum swinging from one side to the other, and on one side is the no and one side is the yes, and your prospect is somewhere in the middle. A prospect can feel you like a traditional window salesman pulling them towards the yes, and they're resistant to it, right? When a window salesman shows up at your door and starts trying to sell you something, you're immediately defensive and you're on to him, right? What we want to do is try to pull them towards the no, or gently nudge them towards the no, so that they pull themselves towards the yes. So that's what we mean by
Gotcha.
staying behind the momentum of the pendulum. So even as they start to move towards yes, we don't really want to follow them over to the yes side. We want to stay on this side, still gently saying, well, I don't know, so that they continue to pull themselves. So at the end of the day, if we get a contract, it's because they have decided that they want this contract, and they're the ones that have convinced themselves to do it. So
Now, when
that
you
is
first started using that process,
yeah.
when you first started using that process, just wondering, was it hard for you to do that? Or because I mean, like, I can picture myself in the situation, and
Mm-hmm.
it seems like it is counterintuitive to what you want to do. Did you find it hard to stay back and do that, or like to try to guide them toward the no, or how to? I mean, was you how to work for you? I guess, does that make sense?
Yep. Yep, definitely makes sense. And I would say that it is still a struggle, even though I've had success using it and I've seen other people use it and I've done these trainings and I'm giving these trainings, it is still odd to not get excited and not get anxious and not want to like promote and push and sell.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. No, I mean, and the Chris Voss, I had seen him on YouTube and stuff, so I understand that, the whole process a little bit, which just might be a little bit different, but it is
yeah.
something that have to get used to.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, it's not like you'll take this training one time and be experts on it. People who have been around forever in home investors, they'll go to the Sandler training and then they'll just keep going to training over and over and over again because one, this is a foundation, a building block of success in this business. And two is you just can never be good enough in it.
No, it definitely makes sense.
So, okay. So that's the essence of it. Um, there's some other really
Okay.
key components, key points to the Sandler selling process. One is to get to their pain. So we are differentiating ourselves from everybody else who's out there doing what we're doing because we are listening and we are getting to their motivation, what we call pain. And their pain can either be current pain and wanting to get out of it. It can be future pain and wanting to avoid that future pain. And sometimes it's not pain at all. It's some sort of pleasure that they want to get to in the future. So pain really can look like any three of those things. But basically, we are trying to understand why they called us, why they would want to sell their house, what their true underlying motivations are, and then frame our entire conversation around that pain, and then framing our solution, which is us buying their house, as a solution to their pain.
Gotcha.
Um,
Now, when you're talking, so when I would be making these calls and I like talk to somebody, um, there was a couple questions I had left. I should have wrote them down because as you're making the calls, lots of times you'll be like, I should ask them how they would do that. Um, and I kind of, as you're doing it, you think of questions, and I didn't unfortunately write them down. I'm sure I'll have them again.
that's
But when
okay.
I'm talking to somebody and they say that, you want to try to figure out like what their issue is. Do you immediately? I know you guys don't go into price at first, right? So you just trying to actually get the appointment. That's what I'm
Yeah,
trying to do with the call. I'm not going to go over any type of price or anything like that at that time. It's just
right.
trying to find their motivation and then get the appointment. And then once you get out there, um, as far as trying to, let me see here. Well, I tell you what, let's go ahead a little bit further, and then if I think about, can try to
Yep.
figure out what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
Um, Unfortunately, I'm not very articulate on that.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So you're right.
Okay.
On the phone, we're not trying to overqualify them. We're basically trying to get the appointment. There are traces of Sandler in our phone conversations. In fact, our phone script is built around some of these concepts. But really, what we're talking about once we get face to face with the sellers.
Gotcha.
So here's some other rules that you really have to internalize and just take as gospel to be good at this. Rule number one is, and this was really
Okay.
hard for me, was and is, you are a salesperson. This is what you're doing. And what you're trying to sell is you're trying to sell the idea to that seller to sell their house at a discount to you, right? Because they have other options, right? So you are a salesperson, and that is why you are there. Rule number 2, listen more than you talk. Like, remember we talked about understanding, getting to their pain. You're not going to be able to get to that pain if you're the one talking all the time. It should be at least 80% them and 20% you. That is also going to feel weird. You'll get better at this, but asking thoughtful questions and then just let them go. Just let them talk. And sometimes the most powerful tool you have is silence, because no one likes that awkward silence. And it's almost like a game of chicken. And if you can win those little games of chicken and they start talking, they're going to divulge information. They're going to trust you more, and you're winning. If they're talking, you're winning. Rule number 3 also, so you're a salesperson, be quiet and listen. Rule number 3, just surrender to the appointments. When I first started this, all the mentors and people who have been doing this a long time, they always say you just got to surrender to it. And I was like, what does that even mean? And then I realized it hit me in an appointment. When the person is talking, I have a tendency to just be thinking about what it is I need to say next or what I need to do next. But true surrendering to the appointment is not doing that as much as you can. So when they're talking, you are just listening. You're not thinking about what you need to say next. And there's an added benefit to that. If you don't already know what you're going to say next, when they're done talking, you're probably going to get that weird silence, which means they'll probably continue talking. So that not thinking about what you're going to say next, and then letting go of any assumptions that you have from the appointment or from, other times you've talked to them about what you think their situation is and why they've called you. You are going in there with a clean slate. You're an investigator, you're Columbo, and you're in there and you're just trying to figure out what's going on without any assumptions. Okay.
Gotcha.
So you're a salesperson.
That sounds like a good tactic.
Yeah, you're a salesperson. Your goal is to just be quiet and let them talk, and you're trying to just be there and be present and not have a lot of inner dialogue going on.
Okay.
Here's
now,
another.
do you tell them up front? Oh, sorry. Now, do you tell them up front? Because I know when we went out last, me and Josh, when we went out last time, he does make it clear, like, hey, we're buying it at a discount. Is there a good way to bring that up or should you, because you do want to let them know that up front, right? That way there's no surprises or they don't look at the number. And,
so that's,
how do you break that to them?
Yeah,
I don't know if you were going to get to that. I don't want to break scripts, but
no, that's okay. That is actually part.
Also,
we call that the discount statement, and that is part of the phone call. And it doesn't really have to be so hard. It doesn't have to be, now, we buy at really steep discounts and you're not going to like our offer. It really can sound, it should sound as simple as this. First of all, you asked for permission to tell them a little bit about how you operate. Like, hey, do you mind? Hey, thank you for that information. Do you mind if I tell you a little bit about HomeVestors? And they'll say, yeah, sure. And you'll say, so we're a discount home buyer. We offer a fair price at a discount, but we offer speed and convenience. And if you still think it makes sense to invite us out to your property, then I'll have you invite me out and we'll set up an appointment, something like that. And so right then you guys are on the same page. Everybody knows what you're doing, what you got going on. And then when you show up, they already know.
You did it so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did it so well. I was going to have you come out and buy my property for a second.
So that's when that happens. That's when that happens. So
yeah.
Okay, so we talked about how the fact that you're a salesperson, to listen more than you talk, settle in and surrender to the appointment. This is key. Not every prospect is qualified to be our customer. Just because somebody has a house or a property, it doesn't mean that they're our customers. We're looking for, here's the group of people who are customers, or who are, let's say, prospects, people who have houses. And here's the group of people who actually fit into the mold of our system. And to be one of our customers, to be qualified to be one of our customers, they got to have pain. If they're not motivated to sell their house at a discount, then they should be using somebody else to help them. We help a very specific type of person in a very specific type of situation, even though those situations might look a little bit different. So it's okay. That's when I say, when we get to the no, when we go out there, we'll very quickly realize whether or not this person could be or is one of our customers. And if they're not our customer, that's fine. That's okay. We cannot help everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. Prospects buy for their reasons, not the salesperson's. Never answer an unasked question, and don't give free advice. I found myself doing this early in appointments. You feel bad for people. They start pulling out their bills, and you're like, hey, have you talked to this mortgage lender and this mortgage lender? I thought that would kind of help me. But basically, you're an industry expert. You have industry knowledge. Your time is worth money and your knowledge is worth money. And you're there for a very specific reason. So we don't give free advice, and I don't give free advice anymore.
Okay. So just do what you got to do while you're there.
Mm-hmm.
Try to see whether or not you can make it work with our business.
Yep.
And if it can't, then, now, like, do you ever, I know, like a situation where, like the one that we had down in Lancaster, that me and Josh went to. I don't know, like, would you refer somebody to like a realtor down there, or do you kind of just
Mm-hmm.
don't want to get involved in it, I mean, how would that work, I guess? Or should I stay out of, not for that?
No, that it is a last resort. And I think it depends on the situation. If you really think there's no hope of them selling to us, but for some reason they don't already have a real estate agent, and it just is really obvious that that's the way they need to go, then recommending and getting referral, because we can get referral fees on that, and usually 25% of the commission. So that's always an option, but last possible option.
Gotcha.
So the last bullet point, I'll skip a few. The last bullet point here is kind of summarizes what we just talked about. If it's about people being our customers or not being our customers, no pain, no sale. There's no pain there. There is no sale there either. They're not our customer. Okay. So you're a salesperson. We're going to listen more than we talk. We're going to surrender. Not every person is going to be our customer. We're going to try and get to the no first to make sure that they are a customer. And no pain, no sale. Okay. So I sent you this picture, and those pictures I sent you really were just for future reference, just to have handy. They're from this little like pocket guide that we got at training. But Sandler, they represent it as a submarine. And the reason that they use it as a submarine, or they use that analogy, is because the concept is you move through the compartments like you would in a submarine. And once you move out of a compartment from the compartment behind you, you lock the door, right? That's how submarines work. If it starts to flood, they seal off those doors and water doesn't get to the other compartments. So we spend time in the compartment number 1, which is bond and rapport. And once that bond and rapport is established, we seal it off, and we don't go back there unless we absolutely need to. So they're separate from each other. And here's the seven components of the submarine. We've got bond and rapport, upfront contracts, which there's more detail in here, pain, budget, decision, offer, and post-sell. Those are the 7 components of the Sandler submarine. And I think we'll just go over the first couple today. Okay. Bond and rapport is extremely important, because you guys in these appointments are you and the seller are going to talk about some sensitive things. Most likely you're going to really get into their financial situation. You're going to get into the offer, which it could be offensive to them, but you're gonna need to ask a lot of questions that you wouldn't just ask at a cocktail party, right? You're gonna have to kind of dive into what's been going on, and the basis and the foundation on which those questions will stand is your bond and rapport with that person. If you didn't do a good enough job with bond and rapport, you'll start asking questions about their situation, and they'll shut down. And that's when one of those cases where you got to go back to bond and rapport and really just have a conversation and figure out how to connect on some level with them. And one of the ways to do that is to communicate in ways that they prefer to be communicated with. And you won't know what that is unless you're paying attention, right? So you want to match posture, you want to match body movements. This says match their rate of speed, but I always err on the side of speaking very slow. The slow is not aggressive, and it's not doesn't set off any alarms, and it makes sure that they're hearing you, and it makes sure that you're not in a hurry. But I think really what that means here with mirroring and matching is just if they're a person who's talking really fast and they want to move and they want to start taking you around the house, or if they're swearing at you, or they're how people have different ways of talking and the different language that they use.
Yeah.
We want to be around there, kind of matching their energy and matching their tone and their phrases and their and the way that they have conversations so that they feel comfortable. And then we want to, after paying attention or while paying attention, we want to connect with them on some level deeper than just what's laying around the house. I think, a lot of salespeople get into a house, they'll see a picture of, whatever, some guy playing basketball. They're like, hey, is that your son? He plays basketball. I love basketball. And that's so surfacey. People see through that. So,
Yeah.
we're not going to do that. I think if we're paying attention, we can connect on a deeper level than just other things that are laying around the house. Another book I would.
And I think that's.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's kind of helped me. I think going out with Josh a little bit too, because me and it's actually kind of nice having somebody else there with you, because it seemed like we were able to play well off each other with the customer, which I know that won't be that way most of the time because it'll be, me by myself. But it has helped make me a lot more comfortable tagging along with him and, going into people's houses, and it's something totally different than like what I'm doing now. And it is very interesting going to these people's houses and just learning a little bit about them. It's kind of it's definitely interesting.
Right. So, yep.
And just trying to connect with them.
And your personality is one that thrives on that and likes it.
Yeah, it's definitely fun. I don't know if you call it fun. I don't know. And it's not fun because some of the people, their situations aren't fun, but it's, interesting, I guess.
Right. It can be fun.
Yeah, no, it is kind of fun.
All right, so next section, upfront contracts. This bond report is important. I was going to tell you to read a book called The Like Switch, which is kind of another bond and rapport book. Has some really good tactics in there.
Called The Light Switch?
Like Like. Okay. So upfront contracts. Important to note that even though the upfront contract has these key components in it, and we want to hit all the key components, it may not be fluid. The appointment is not going to look like it does on paper, right? You're not going to show up and you're not going to be able to go like step by step by step, because they're going to guide the appointment, and you just never know what's going to be going on. So that's fine. We want to hit all of these things, but we don't have to hit them all in a row. And we don't have to hit them all at the beginning. As long as we at some point just kind of touch on these, we're good. And this is just to establish kind of a framework for the appointment. So one thing is you want to establish an agenda for the meeting, and it should be.
Sorry about that. I had an incoming call.
Oh, that's all right.
So hopefully we're still together. You still there?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
So you were, I think, saying that let the customer kind of guide what compartment you're going to hit first. Is that kind of what you're?
And these components of the upfront contract, you're not likely going to be able to hit them all right in a row or right at the beginning. You want to touch on all of them, but it may be at various times through the appointment. And it's
now, do you ever refer them to a lawyer? I mean, just wondering. I mean, not refer them to a lawyer, but I mean, do you tell them to go to a lawyer and have it looked over, or
no?
Is it just kind of whatever they decide?
No. This is not this is not a written contract. This is basically an upfront contract means I'm letting you know what's going to happen before it happens. I'm bringing everything. I'm being super transparent, letting you know what's going to happen so that you know what to expect. So one of the things would be, let's have an agenda for this meeting. Let's talk about what it is that you want to accomplish. Another key component of the upfront contract is to ask for permission all the time. So an upfront contract sounds something like this. At some point, you're going to say, hey, thanks for having me out, so that we can see whether or not we can help you with your home, or to see if HomeVestors can help you with your home or not. That or not is a small phrase, but it's very important. So it just sets the anchor in their mind to know that this could or could not work out. And then you're also going to ask.
Okay.
You're also going to ask. And then you say, hey, in order for me to be as helpful as possible, I need to ask you several questions today just to make sure I understand your situation. Is that okay? They'll probably say yes. And then you'll say, okay, and in a little bit, I'll have you show me around the property, including the exterior, if that's okay. And they'll say, yeah, that's fine. And when we walk around the property, is it okay if I take pictures? And they'll say, they'll probably say, yes, that's fine if you take pictures. Okay.
Okay.
So that sort of, those kind of like key concepts. One is that we're basically setting an agenda and a framework for the meeting. Two is that we're constantly asking for permission. And then basically as the meeting happens and unfolds, we're constantly referring back and circling back to that upfront contract. Got it?
Gotcha.
Okay. So the portions of the upfront contract quickly are saying thank you. Okay. Just like I said, thanks for having us out to see if we can help you with your house or not. One of the things you did on the phone was you gave them an expectation or an upfront contract of how long the appointment was going to last. So you said probably 60 minutes. So after you say, thanks for having me out, so we can see if we help you or not, I just want to make sure that we still have the 60 minutes that we talked about on the phone. And they'll say, oh yeah, we're good or whatever. And then you want to ask about interruptions, and just touch on it briefly. And I want to make sure we still have the 60 minutes. Are you expecting any interruptions today? Any phone calls, any visitors, anything like that? And they'll probably say no or whatever, but.
All right, can I interrupt you real quick? I just thought of a question.
Yes.
Sorry, didn't mean to totally cut you off.
Yeah.
When I'm making calls off that list, and say somebody's like, all right, I would like for you to come out. Now, I don't know what your schedule is, and I don't know what Josh's schedule is. Now, I don't mind going by myself. I mean, but on the other hand, I still feel like, it would probably be good to have one of you there, maybe, if you can.
Mm-hmm.
So how should I handle that? Like, should I just go ahead and go with what works for them? And
figure out what works for you, give them 3 options that work for you, And then whatever they schedule, whatever you guys agree on, just let us know and we'll figure out a way to get out there with you.
Okay. And if for some reason you guys couldn't make it, I could ask permission to take the pictures, talk to them, and then just send you the pictures. And then would that be okay or no? Or
yeah, that would
that,
be. Yeah, I think option A would be
okay.
for us.
Well, you guys couldn't make it.
Yeah, for option A would be up for us to go with you, and even if you need to call back the seller and say, hey, actually, can we do that other option that I was talking about? Would that work for you? I mean, people aren't going to have a problem with that.
Okay.
Okay.
No, that's fine. I just didn't know, like, when I'm talking to the customer, if I should say, well, I need to, so just give them a couple different options, and then if I have to, I'll call them back and try to.
Yeah, you want them putting the appointment on their calendar when you talk to them.
Okay, so you let them take a choice of 3 different ones, and then hopefully, if they can't work or whatever one they pick, if you guys can't be there, then I'll try to change it. If I can't change it, I'll go on out and then take pictures and then try to go through the product.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Okay, so you're basically saying thank you. You're making sure we're not gonna get interrupted, that you have the 60 minutes or so. And then the next step is the seller's agenda. This is gigantic. As soon as I started doing this, it changed the way the appointments went for me. And it basically goes like, the concept is that you're trying to figure out what it is they want to make sure that you cover. But the real reason you're doing it is because whatever their answers are to those questions, those are the pain points. And when we get to the step in here about pain, you're going to go back to what they brought up in this question and start digging into it. So when you ask them, hey, what do you want to make sure that I answer today? What specific things do you want to make sure you understand about how our business works? And maybe they'll say, I don't know. Then you say something like, because there's like 3 main things. It's repairs, timing, and what stuff they can leave or take, right? So then you'll say something like, well, a lot of people are concerned just about maybe how fast we can move. Is that a concern to you? And they'll say yes or no. And you say, well, okay, what about closing costs? Do you have any concern about if you have to pay closing costs or commissions or anything like that? And they might say, yeah, that's actually, I want to make sure that I'm not having to do any of that. And you're like, okay. And you write it down. You say, okay, well, we definitely want to cover that. Is there anything else? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Then you have that written down about their agenda. And then when you go to the pain step, you go back to those points and you say something like, hey, remind me again about your timeline. And then they'll say, okay, this is my timeline. And say more about that. Why is it that you need to move by this date or whatever it is? And you start using this funnel system for these 7 questions to dig down into that. So our goal is to get to the real motivation. The first couple of things they say about why they want to sell their house and why they got to move fast probably are not going to be the real reason. There's going to be something deep down. And that's what we're trying to dig into. Then that question, that agenda up front, is what sets the tone and gives us an anchor to then, when we get to the pain, go back and say, hey, you mentioned this. We'll say more about that. There's more to read here about the upfront contract. I also have a video I recorded of myself doing the upfront contract. I would look into that. Shouldn't take very long. And then let's get back on the calendar, or hopefully some point face to face, and we can dig into the rest of these categories. Because that was really, that'll what we just went over would be like the first 10-15 minutes of your appointment.
Now, just wondering, which this is a question which is due to our current situation. If somebody says, can you come, like say I go home and call some people and they're like, yeah, can you come out Sunday? Now I know there's a shelter-in-place order. I mean, would we still go ahead and go out on Sunday, or how would? I mean, I don't really mind going out. I just didn't know what your thoughts are.
Yep.
Is there an issue with everything going on, or
So we're deemed essential. So real estate services are deemed essential. So we have we have the ability to go out to appointments. If we have a couple contingencies in place, like I just did my last buy appointment yesterday, and I wore gloves and I wore this the whole appointment.
Gotcha.
So we're doing that. We will require you to wear gloves and a mask if you go to a buy appointment. For a lot of reasons.
Okay.
And then
because I mean, I guess it could be a potential lawsuit. Like, say you went out to somebody's house, and then they said, "Well, you gave me, the COVID virus." They like, I mean, people sue for anything, so you hate to, what I mean, get into a situation where somebody tries to do something. I mean, I'm not saying that'd be like worst case
scenario. Yeah. So that's what we're doing, and we're keeping our distance when we go out there.
If it would end up.
And then if
all right, hopefully that'll be over in the next couple of weeks.
If they have reservations about you coming out, we do have a protocol for virtual appointments. I won't cover it right now, but that's something we can tackle. If you talk to somebody and they're interested in selling their house, but they don't want you to come out, we have a process in place to do a virtual appointment.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, that's a good thing to have in case you need it. But hopefully, like I said, I don't know. Hopefully this won't survive during the hot months. I don't know. I've heard different things. So hopefully once it gets warmer, it'll be gone.
Yeah.
Weird.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, so let's touch base. Hopefully in the next week or so to get on another call and go through more of this.
Okay. Yeah. Just let me know